Hey there, thanks for stopping by. Appreciate you watching. So one of the biggest reasons why I'm running, and the absolute biggest complaint that I hear from people all across town as I knock doors, is that the rate of development has gotten really out of hand, especially with the 5-story apartment buildings. They've been popping up everywhere, and it seems like there's no end in sight. In fact, when you hear from city planning, apparently, what they intend to do is raise the population from 100,000 people to about 160,000 people over the next few years. The hope is that the anticipated growth in population will end up paying for the $1.5 billion that we are in debt. I, however, don't want to see that happen. I think that would be imprudent, at least for right now. I would much rather put a pause in 5-story development, especially with the apartments, and see how the current ones play out, and then decide if we should build more or not. There isn't apparently a contingency plan in case if those apartments don't fill up or the economy tanks. All kinds of things that could happen unexpectedly, and we would definitely be overextending ourselves quite a bit and go quite a bit further into debt beyond the $1.5 billion. So, but the other thing is, like, where are all these people going to come from? Where are they going to drive? What's the traffic going to look like? What's that going to do? Can the infrastructure handle it? To that, I can say I've met with both of the utility companies. We can handle the infrastructure, so that actually is not an issue. So that's good news. But as far as traffic is concerned, I know this was brought up a couple times with some people who work for the city, and it was merely brushed off like Carmel has one of the greatest traffic flows in the state. However, the roundabouts that grant that good traffic flow, I've experienced this personally. If they get too crowded, there are 2 lanes that will lock down the other 2 lanes if it gets too populated. And the other 2 lanes can't move, and since there's so many roundabouts, that will set off a chain reaction and you just have gridlock everywhere. So as you increase traffic flow, that will have a ripple effect, especially during peak travel times. I do have a plan to address that. I could get into it later in a different video, which actually I think I will do. I don't want this to go too long. But as far as the complaints that I hear, or I wouldn't say complaints, just some of the biggest concerns. The biggest concern, like I said, is development. The other, like neck and neck, second most, sometimes depends on the neighborhood, sometimes first most concern is that residents have been paying 40% more in taxes over the past 3 years. And one of the biggest causes for that is the TIF program and how development has been increasing property values, which if you're young and you want to move out, that's a good thing because you can sell for a nice profit and leave Carmel. But if you're wanting to retire and settle down, or maybe downsize into a smaller 1-story ranch home in Carmel because that's where you've lived for the past 30, 40, 50 years, those buildings are being knocked down and replaced with 5-story apartments. And not too many have. It's not like a widespread thing, but it is apparently something that's in the plan for the next 10 years in a particular neighborhood that I was in. And it's not surprising if it would be in a few more as well. Yeah, I don't think that would be considerate to the people that have lived here for 30, 40, 50 years, especially people that are retired or on a fixed income. The only thing increased property value does is increases their taxes, and on the back end, it just makes it harder to make ends meet, especially during a time of high inflation where the cost of living is more challenging. So my plan is to just maintain where we're at. If we do want new development, I would be absolutely okay with like for like. If somebody wants to put up a 5-story building in an existing spot where there was a 3-story apartment building or a 4-story apartment building, and we're just going to revitalize that plot of land, I'm okay with that. Speaking of plots of land, the city currently owns, I think, anywhere between 120 to 130 plots of land. And those are all tax exempt because they're owned by the state, which is a tax exempt entity, or owned by the city, not the state. And because of that, the property taxes that would have gone into Carmel schools, police department, fire department, any emergency services, is instead getting zeroed out, and it's actively harmful to the bottom line for the schools and emergency services. So one of the things I do want to address is if we ended up not passing the referendum, because like I said, a lot of people are paying 40% more in taxes, and if the referendum states that, hey, you're going to start paying an extra 69 cents every $100 on your taxes for property tax, there's, I think, a decent chance that might get shot down. From what I understand, the other two candidates don't have a contingency plan for that. My contingency plan is to sell off these parcels of land, get some revenue into the city to start funding the schools through property sales, property taxes, and also help with emergency services. There are a couple things I'd like to update. So anyway, the other big thing is just transparency. I mentioned that in a little clip that I did when I was speaking in front of City Council. Basically, long story short, there's essentially been a bit of a shell game, financially speaking, with the city and how they pay for things. It's often unstated. They just says other means will pay for whatever it is, and it doesn't say what the other means are. There are also a number of dollar figures that are just given an estimated purchase value, especially the 1933 project. That's more prominent one from what I understand. So anyway, yeah, long story short, the other two candidates want to continue on with the development, and I don't think that would be prudent, especially right now. And right now, I'm the only option to put a pause on the massive development, especially with 5-story apartment buildings. So if you're watching this and you live in Carmel, I strongly hope you consider writing in D. Johnson for mayor. I would greatly appreciate it, and I think the city would also appreciate it as well. So that's all I've got. So thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. And as always, stay classy. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.